Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag targets not one, not two, but three new transfer targets ahead of the January or maybe the summer if you were watching last night. We'll have to wait and see. But three interesting targets for Manchester United. One being a young Brazilian superstar and the other two being in their mid-20s. Is that as glamorous? I don't know. We'll go through that. Also, a little bit about Ronaldo and Sporting Lisbon if you're interested in that. And it's a bit of a quick-fire news show this morning because we have got Erik ten Hag's press conference reaction coming up for you in a couple of hours, actually. So lots to get into today. Looking forward to it. Will we in the future see watch-alongs with Seb if he likes football like you, says Ryan? Well, I think the crossover is I'll be in a wheelchair by the time Seb's old enough to do that, but we'll see. Anyway, Schick has not really started the season running, says Nella. Neither has Tammy Abraham. So we're going to be talking about three players. I'm not going to keep them under wraps. Got me coffee on the go here today. I should be sponsored by Starbucks or Costa or anybody else, shouldn't I? That'd be a good sponsor for a morning show. Got me coffee on the go. Ayuma says that no Abraham, please. And Ronaldo ain't going to Sporting Lisbon, says Mamta. Oh, I think one day I will do the show like Jim White at 10 o'clock. But back to the news. So we're talking Patrick Schick, Czech striker with Leverkusen. Fabrizio Romano has been talking about him and Manchester United. We're talking Tammy Abraham, who has been linked to us by Italian reports. And we're talking Endrick. That's his name. He's Brazilian. He's 16. I think he's the youngest ever scorer in Brazilian football history. Pele's not happy this morning. He'll be the oldest alive, probably. And so Endrick has been linked to us as well by Caught Offside, which is the same website that Romano does a regular article on. So we're talking about that. And the thing I forgot to mention to you last night, slap on the wrist for me, is that when I was talking to you about Plettigol's update yesterday, the German journalist, he said that Manchester United were prioritising a right-back, but they do want a striker, and they're searching the South American market, which was very specific to say that United are looking for a striker, and they're targeting the South American market. And then we get this story this morning today about Endrick, who is in the South American market. Apparently Real Madrid and other clubs are looking at him. Poison Dwarf says it's got to be Endrick or Schick. Endrick is different gravy. He will join Real Madrid, says Khan. Yeah, I think he probably would. He's a wonder kid in this year's Football Manager, by the way, says Renis. So we'll talk about all three of those. And remember, we've got the press conference to talk about a little bit later on. So let's start off with probably the most reliable story of the three. It's coming in from Fabrizio Romano. He's talking about Patrick Schick. Patrick Schick is a player that you probably remember from the Euros. Czech Republic striker, scored that absolute banger against Scotland. Was it against Scotland though? I can't even remember. It was in Scotland. Scooby-Doo. He took it, he volleyed it on his left foot. I can't remember whether it was against Scotland. Tell me if it was against Scotland. I can't remember. I know it was in Scotland, but Scotland hosted some games in the Euros, so it might not have been against Scotland. But Patrick Schick really lit up the Euros, didn't he, with Czech Republic? He's not having such a great season with Leverkusen this season. I think he scored 2 goals in 13 games, but very prolific last season. He's got a very long contract, 2027, 6'3". But I think the interesting thing here is that we are probably targeting a particular type of striker. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing because it was against Scotland. Apparently it was against Scotland. Scooby-Doo, it was. So yeah, it was against Scotland. Gawian says Schick all the way. Yeah, look, I like Schick, and I'm not going to say I don't like it when people say, well, he's not having a very good season, don't buy him. I mean, all right, prolific, you score all the time, but for Czech Republic, he's got a goal every 2 games. I don't know what's going on with him at Leverkusen at the moment, but he's not scoring that many goals. But I think that the thing I like about Schick, and we've spoken about him in the past, and it's interesting because Fabrizio Romano says, keep your eye on Schick. This was a player that Ralf Rangnick wanted, so it could be a player that United look at. Straight away I'd go, I mean, that's a big problem for Ten Hag. You don't want anything that Rangnick recommended. Rangnick recommended Akanji, went to Man City. Rangnick recommended Lema, he's going to go to Bayern. Rangnick recommended Nkunku, he's going to go to Chelsea. So if Rangnick recommended Schick, we ain't going to get him, to be honest with you. But I think he's the sort of player that United should be looking at, because if Ronaldo goes one way or the other, Ronaldo's gone in the next 2 years, isn't he? Maybe in the next 6 months. We do need I believe we do need a taller striker, and I'm surprised that it doesn't get mentioned enough. We need a striker that's over 6'2". We do. We desperately do. We've got to be able to whip across into the box. It's a big part of Ten Hag's game. We saw it against Chelsea. It is a big part of what Ajax used to do, especially with Haller in the team. It's not something that Ten Hag is averse to doing, and it's something that's written in Manchester United's DNA. DNA. It is written in our DNA. So I think we need a mix-it-up striker, and I think someone like Schick, who's very mobile for a tall player, he's got a good hold-up play for a tall player. I mean, he can actually play off the wing. So I like the idea of Schick, but I've got to say, and it's interesting that Romano's talking about him. Kristen's talking about Weghorst. Eddie's talking about Mitrovic. Very, very... I mean, Vlahovic as well, says Anne Blue. There's some very... Vlahovic is the best option, says Abd, especially with the way Juventus are playing as well. Juventus could be out of Europe altogether, not even in the Europa League. They're out of the Champions League. Look, there are some interesting options out there, but I do think we need that profile of a striker. We need a striker who's good in the air. They don't have to be bloody Peter Crouch, but we do need a striker that's a threat in the air, because we are not a threat in the air. Unless Ronaldo plays, and he brings his own weaknesses, as we know, but Rashford's no threat in the air. Martial's not really good in the air. So we need a striker that's, we need an all-rounder. And I think Schick, Mitrovic, Tony, Vlahovic, Tammy Abraham, who we'll mention in a minute, that these sort of strikers, they are all-rounders, and I think you need one of those. Z says, with the graveyard shift that our striking position is, the only person we need is Osman, who hustles his own chances. He drags all the defence's attention, and that will allow our wingers to flourish. Interesting. So I think Schick's an interesting player because Romano's mentioned it, but I must just have a sip of coffee and ponder this next comment. It'd be good if he misses a chance, like Stitch says, because we could go, oh, Schick. I don't think it will be a player that United go for. I don't think we can just say Rangnick targeted him, so we won't get him. But there did seem to be an ignorance this summer. Anything that was recommended by Rangnick was basically binned by Ten Hag, and that was well known within the club. United had their own ideas. They were talking about people like Calvin Phillips. Rangnick had a list of players as well. They all got binned, and Ten Hag went for what he wanted, and you can't argue with that. I mean, look, Martinez, Anthony, Eriksson, Malacia, Casemiro, they're not. We might have overpaid for a lot of them, but that's not Ten Hag's fault. They've all worked out pretty well, haven't they? But on the Rangnick list, you did have Schick, you did have Nkunku, you did have Akanji, and you did have Lema. And honestly, I wouldn't have minded us buying a couple of those, but we've got Ten Hag. He's the manager. The next player we've been linked to is Tammy Abraham. This is coming from Italian reports. So look, Schick's under a very big contract. I forgot to say 2027. So Bayer Leverkusen, somewhere around 40 to 50 million quid. I think that's what you'd have to pay for him. Tammy Abraham's also on a long contract. I did write it down somewhere. Yeah, 2026. 6'5", Tammy Abraham, 25. Schick is 26. And again, he's not had a superstar goal scoring wise. 14 games, 2 goals. But again, I still think that Tammy Abraham in the right system would be a threat. I've never massively been a huge... I don't know what it is about Tammy Abraham, but I've never been a massive sort of, get him at Man United. Keep it up, Mark. Watch every day, says Ethan. So I don't know what your thoughts are. We'll run a little poll, actually, at the end on the 3 options. But, yeah, I like the fact that United are looking at these profile of strikers. I really think we need an all-rounder. We need somebody who is competent in the air. And I think that, obviously, Tammy Abraham at 6'5" and Schick at 6'3", they're going to be, competent in the air and more than that. But there's just something about Tammy Abraham that doesn't... Look, I suppose if you're saying to me, do I want Tammy Abraham or Patrick Schick, I'm going to go for Schick. And he's going to be cheaper because you're buying from Bayer Leverkusen, who will sell him for about 40, 50 million. If you buy Tammy Abraham from Roma, they're going to want 70, 80 million. And I don't see the difference there. So I would avoid Tammy Abraham. Italian reports are talking about him. I think it's well established that Tammy Abraham wants to come back to the Premier League at some point. And at only 25, he will come back in the next 12 to 18 months. But I don't think it's the sort of signing United should do. If Ten Hag wants to do it, fine. But the money he will cost, and he will cost north of 60 million, there are better options out there for me that are, better players and will get for the same or a little bit more. Like someone said, Osman's probably going to go for 100 million. Do you want to spend 100 million on Osman, or do you want to play 60, 70 million on Abraham? The £30 million difference is worth it to go for Osman in my mind. So, look, it's an interesting player. As I say, I like the fact that we're being linked to taller players, but Tammy Abraham for me wouldn't do it. Hi Mark, Piers and Souness keep on attacking Erik Ten Hag. I've played the game, Augustine. I've played the game. Look, Piers Morgan is a loudmouth Arsenal fan who spent a year telling everyone that Arteta wasn't good enough and sticking up for Aubameyang. He can sleep in his bed of sin. He can sleep in his bed of being wrong. I'm not interested in what Piers Morgan's got to say about football. He is just hot air. His football knowledge is zero. He likes Aubameyang and he likes Ronaldo because they're his mates. Let him talk. Don't react. There's zero football credibility there. The way that he treats, as an Arsenal fan, the way that he treated Arteta. If you were part of the Arteta out crowd, you're a prat. You cannot. We saw what Arteta was doing, and we don't even bloody like Arsenal. And I and many of you spoke about it for months before Arsenal were relevant. You can see what Arteta's doing. Even last season when they missed out on top four, even the season before when they finished 8th, you can see what Arteta's doing. Arsenal need to be patient. Printing T-shirts, gobbing off on their Twitter accounts, Arteta out, Arteta out. And now they're like, oh, he's actually all right. I've watched All or Nothing. So I got no interest in that. I've got no interest. Look, Erik Ten Hag's our manager. In fact, why are we getting stressed? I told you this back in April. The media will come for Ten Hag. It's what happens with Man United managers. It's what the fans do that count, and I don't see the fans turning on Ten Hag. 14 million should buy a very talented striker. And Ivan Toney is more suitable for Ten Hag's system, says Louise. Yeah, and I think he would cross, if you're asking me Schick or Toney, I think there's an interesting conversation to be had. Chunky says, is there any new news on the Varane injury? Hopefully, we're going to get Ten Hag at midday. We'll be reacting to it. He's definitely going to get asked about Ronaldo. Definitely going to get asked about Varane. I think he'll be asked about Maguire, Donny and their suitability and how quick they'll be back. So I'm really looking forward to that press conference reaction just after midday. And then the final player I want to talk to you about, it's coming out from Court Offside, which is the website that Romano does a lot of stuff with. They're linking us to Endrick, who is 16 years of age. He plays for Palmeiras in South America, Brazil. And apparently I think he's the youngest ever scorer in that league. The next big thing, the next wonder kid, the next Ronaldo, Pele, Ronaldinho, or whatever the next Brazilian Neymar has to be. Very, very exciting player. And he has been linked to Manchester United and Real Madrid. Now, I don't think United will get Endrick. I don't think, I've seen United linked to young Brazilian prodigies for years, and we don't get them. I mean, Jesus, we were linked to him, and we didn't get him. We always get linked to these players, and we never do it. But the interesting thing about this story is we may well not get Endrick. He may well end up at Inter Milan or Real Madrid or wherever the young Brazilians normally go, which is not Manchester United. But the interesting thing is, there was that article yesterday from Pletigol, and there's been a few others. There is definitely something going on with United and Brazil. We are definitely looking to do something there. There are too many stories and rumours around Manchester United and Brazil at the moment. There's talk of us, linking up with a football club over there to nurture talent. But we're definitely looking at the Brazilian market, and maybe that's going to be a change of direction for United. Maybe we will buy this Endrick. But what's really important for Manchester United? We've never had a Brazilian that's done well at Manchester United. Never. Kleberson, rubbish. Anderson was okay. Rafael was okay. Fred's very hit and miss. I mean, he gets his passport checked every week. So, that's how it's worked out for Brazilian Fred. Can be brilliant, can be terrible. Casemiro, Anthony, looking like, certainly in the case of Casemiro, is going to be our best ever Brazilian. We seem to be breaking that curse, or whatever you want to call it. And it's a silly one anyway. There's no reason why Brazilian players shouldn't be playing well at Manchester United. So there's something going on there. It's definitely a market, I think, that Erik Ten Hag likes. I think it's one that Ajax always had pretty good relationships. I mean, obviously they brought Anthony in from there, but I think they have brought other players in from the past from Brazil. And it certainly seems like it's a market that Eric Ten Hag wants to exploit. So I'm here for it. Let's see what happens. Do you play Football Manager, and are you excited for Football Manager 23? I will be playing it this year, Obam, when it releases in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I know I could play the beta, but we've got some big plans for for Football Manager 23 on my Twitch channel in a couple of weeks when it launches. So get ready for that. It's going to be good. And don't forget that Thea Knight says the De Silva twins. Yeah, but mate, we're talking success. The De Silva twins did well, but they did okay. They didn't do well. Like, we've never had a Brazilian that's done well. Like, if you look at, Ronaldo, even Nani, Portuguese players, Argentinian players, Tevez did very, very well. Martinez is doing very, very well. We've had some great success with Dutch players, haven't we? Like Van Nistelrooy, Van Persie, Van der Sar. But we've never really had that successful Brazilian player. And I think it's something that looks like Manchester United and Ten Hag want to do well with. So we will see about that. I just want to run a poll just before we move on to this next bit of news. Just who would you take? Who would you take? Now, I'm not going to influence this at all. You've got Schick. You've got Abraham. And you've got Hendrick. What's the name of that striker who plays in Germany as well? He was meant to go to Newcastle, then he was meant to go to PSG, and I don't think he went to either of them. It's not Ndika, that's the centre-back at Frankfurt. I'm talking about the striker. Oh, what's his name? Was it Nketiah or something like that? Anyway, someone in the chat will know. I don't know whether he ever actually made the move. I don't know. Look, there are options out there. There are options out there, and I think that's what we need to be looking at the end of the day. Okay, let me come back. So get your votes in. A TK, that's it. A TK, that was it. Yeah, I don't think he ever moved, did he? I don't think he did. He did go to PSG. Okay, the poll didn't work. Oh God, I hate YouTube sometimes. Who would you choose? This is duplication now. Abraham. Schick. Oh, I'm too tired for this now. There. Should work now. Yeah. No poll showing up. It's there now. He did sign for PSG. Okay, he went to PSG. Nketiah plays for Arsenal. I'm getting mixed up. Ndika, Nketiah, Atike. I sort of combined Ndika and Atike and made Nketiah, didn't I? Yeah, so look, there are options out there. The poll has worked. Bjorn says Tony and Gakpo are more likely than all of those in the poll. No, I got to say I completely disagree. You know what? Tony is a fan theory. He's like Fabinho or Lozano years ago. There is nothing about United and Ivan Toney. Nothing. I've spoken to people about that. This is just a fan theory. There is nothing at the moment about United and Ivan Toney. Doesn't mean we won't get him, but he won't happen till the summer anyway. There's nothing about Man United and Ivan Toney. So I wouldn't say Tony's any more likely than Mitrovic, Schick, Abraham, Hendrick, Osimhen, Leao, or anybody else. I mean, Leao's a very interesting player with 18 months left on his contract. I mentioned that last night. Why we're not looking to do that, but there'll be better clubs than us looking to do that. Please bring back the Cantona Christmas jumper, says Max. We will. Okay. The next bit of news I want to talk to you about is Ronaldo. You may have seen this story. I think it was the Sporting Lisbon manager. It might have been their CEO, but I think it was their manager. Basically said, we dream of bringing Cristiano Ronaldo back to Sporting, but we can't afford his wages. And this just basically blows the theory out that nobody wants Ronaldo, because people do want Ronaldo, but they can't afford Ronaldo. And that was why he didn't go in August, because Manchester United will not terminate his contract. They won't do it. They just will not do it, because Manchester United is a brand and not a football club, and they will not write off a contract and terminate a contract. Because to terminate a contract, you basically have to pay it off, and we won't do that. So what Man United will do is probably a free transfer, and a free transfer can't happen until the transfer window opens. Terminating a contract is a legal minefield. But when people said terminate the contract, to terminate the contract means he's not a Man United player right now. That's a legal nightmare, because how do you do that? Like, Ronaldo would be foolish to do that, especially with the World Cup taking up most of the next 3 months. The first opportunity for Manchester United to remove Ronaldo is a free transfer in January, which is what we should have done in August. And what happens with a free transfer is United basically say, you can go, we don't pay your wages anymore, we don't get a transfer fee, you go and do whatever you want to do. Which would then open up a return to Sporting Lisbon, where Sporting Lisbon would say to Ronaldo, we can give you 100 grand a week or 200 grand a week, but that's it. And then he's got to take a pay cut, which he probably will do. But there might be other options out there. But Man United have got to let him go on a free transfer first. And I was speaking to somebody about this yesterday afternoon, and they said to me, Man United will be the problem in this. Ten Hag will let him go on a free transfer. Ronaldo wants to go on a free transfer in January, but Man United will not want to buy a replacement for Ronaldo for Ten Hag, which will cause an issue. And also, they'll still be thinking, we want some money for a player that they're not going to get any money for. So it could, someone said to me yesterday, this could drag until the summer. And I was like, that's bloody ridiculous. It's not fair on Ronaldo, and it's certainly not fair on Ten Hag to keep this, potential bubbling pot from spilling over again. So, but it's interesting that Sporting Lisbon manager has said that he would love Cristiano Ronaldo, but they can't afford the wages. I think he'll take a pay cut anyway. So the story goes, Kleberson was bought to help Ronaldinho settle in. Unfortunately, it never happened with Ronaldinho, but at least we got Ronaldo instead, says Glenn. And when I was young, my dad called me Ronaldo. I watched with my granddad and loved Ronaldo. I really want some closure and for him to go out with dignity, says Daniel. Well, yeah, well, we'll hear from Erik Ten Hag today, of course, on the Ronaldo situation. And I'm not expecting anything dramatic about that. I'm actually more interested in what he's got to say about people like Donny van de Beek and Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Anthony Martial. I think for me, the biggest question in the press conference is what's going on with Anthony Martial. I think that's a huge question. And it'll be more interesting an answer than Ronaldo, because we know what's happening with Ronaldo. He's back in training, and Ten Hag will say things like, it's private between me and Ronaldo, and he's back in the training now, yeah, and he works hard, very good in training, and let's see what happens over the future games, and that'll be it. I don't think there'll be anything more than that, because he's back in training now, so it's a public statement of for now the situation has been resolved. So I'm more interested in what's happening with Martial and other players. So Ronaldo has the option to buy out his contract, says Oban. Yeah, but why would you do that? If you're Cristiano Ronaldo, why would you buy your contract out? There are literally 5 Premier League games before the January transfer window opens. 3 before the World Cup, 2 after the World Cup. So why would you do it? Why'd you do it? G'day, Mark, says Tom Grant. Ten Hag didn't want Casemiro. What a blessing in disguise, though. We'll be watching Twitch this afternoon, as well as pre-ordering GOW Ragnarok. Is that Gods of War? Looks quite good, Tom Grant, actually. Oh, my FIFA career mode is going fantastically well at the moment, by the way, isn't it? Really, very lucky yesterday, but it's going well. Mark, we've got the option for a further year. What happens in that situation? We won't take it, Mikhail. We won't take it. We won't take it. We just won't. On the striker situation, who would you choose? Tammy Abraham, 33%, Schick, 41%, and Endrick, 26%. I just want to say thank you. Thank you to you every day anyway. You're fantastic. I think we've got an amazing community that's very, very, very opinionated, which is a big tick in the box, and educated on football, which is another big tick in the box. And you've also got a sense of humour, which helps. I really thought Endrick would win that poll because he's the 16-year-old wonder kid from Brazil who nobody knows anything about. So I actually thought that on certain other outlets they'd say Endrick, but that's why my faith in our community is so big, because I think you've gone for the right choice. I would have gone for Schick. Endrick could be the next Neymar combined with Pele. Who knows? Tammy Abraham's a reasonable striker, but I think out of those 3, I would go for Schick. I think he's the most suitable and best value for money. So I agree with you. So well done. I didn't know how that poll would go. But no, I do. I mean, do I think we'll get Schick? No. I think that's a Rangnick target, and Ten Hag is a stubborn guy and doesn't want anything that Rangnick said. And that was very obvious from the start which is why we didn't get a Kanji or Lema or Nkunku or Schick. And I know Nkunku's not gone anywhere yet, but he is a player that United had been told to go and get by Rangnick. United have dropped all interest in Nkunku. He's we're not even scouting him anymore. He is not a target. Basically Ten Hag is like, no, I don't want Nkunku, and he'll probably end up at Chelsea or somewhere else, but he's not going to end up at Manchester United. That interest in Nkunku disappeared the day that Rangnick left. Ten Hag literally has just said no, I don't want, and I don't know whether Rangnick and Ten Hag fell out. I don't know. Man United had made the decision to remove Rangnick before Ten Hag was even appointed, so it's wrong to say that Ten Hag got rid of Rangnick, because Rangnick was basically gone in late March. But Ten Hag didn't want to take on board any of his signings at all. And look, Leipzig are doing fantastically well at the moment. I like Vardiel. I like Vardiel as well. He's probably going to go to Chelsea. They beat Real Madrid last night, and they deserve to beat Real Madrid last night. Some really good players at Leipzig, and look, my ideal situation is that Rangnick had, Murta had been sacked, and Rangnick had took Murta's job, and that Rangnick and Ten Hag got on really well. I think that would have been an amazing scenario for Manchester United, because Rangnick's tap into Salzburg and Leipzig. Look, we probably would have got Sesko as well. That's the horrible thing. If we'd kept Rangnick, we probably would have got Sesko, because his relationship and respect with the Red Bull groups is massive. So, we'll never know. We're living in a fantasy, aren't we? But I would have loved Rangnick in Murta's position and Ten Hag where he is, and them working together, because United tried to get Sesko and we couldn't get him. And if we'd had Rangnick instead of Murta, we would have got Sesko. So it's all if, buts and maybes, but I wish we had a competent director of football. These players are we Man United or Scunthorpe United, says Robert. Well, you make a good point, Robert, because I don't know. AJ says go and get Harry Kane. I wouldn't, and Robert will love that, I wouldn't rule out a Harry Kane with 18 months left on his contract coming to Manchester United. But what a risk that is. He'd be 30 years of age. You're still going to pay 60, 70, 80 million with a year left on his contract. Is that the right sort of profile of striker for Manchester United? I don't know. And I tell you what, I think people would be very, very surprised and disappointed by Harry Kane at Manchester United, because some people would think we've got this penalty box striker who's good in the air, and you'll see this number 9 who drifts deep into the number 10 position and gets involved in the build-up play. Harry Kane is not the striker. Look, when he's in those areas, he's very dangerous, but he loves to drop deep now. And I don't know. To say you don't want Harry Kane is to be foolish, but I don't know whether that would be the right step. I really don't. I can see Kane leaving Spurs, though. I can see Spurs out of the top 4, and I think that'll be it. I think he will go. James says, I can see us getting Gakpo and David over the next couple of windows, with the majority of the summer budget aimed at De Jong, Lamptey or Frimpong, says James Cave. Yeah, you might not be right. You might be right, you might be wrong. A lot of people saying they wouldn't take Kane. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, look, I love the show this morning. It's been a cracker. It's been a quick one. It's been very fast-paced, but we're back tonight. No, we're not. We are back tonight at 7 o'clock, actually, because I'm doing the Champions League watch-alongs tonight. Bayern against Barca. Ajax against Liverpool, double watch along on That's Football at 8 o'clock. Looking forward to those. So it'll be United Stand show at 7. But before all of that, we've got the Erik Ten Hag press conference. It's around midday today. Really looking forward to some of his answers, especially around what's going on with Martial. And it's an open training session as well. So we'll see if Martial's in training as well. We should have some footage for that as well. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to tune in for the press conference just after midday. I'll speak to you all in a bit. Take care.